Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hello, and welcome to the State of the Economy podcast. I am your host, Sanjana B, the publication's tech reporter. According to data, India's cybersecurity market is projected to grow from $6 billion in 2023 to $22.6 billion by 2032, with a CAGR of 18% during the forecast period. The banking and financial sector, in particular, is a target for cybercriminals because of the large amounts of sensitive data and cash it handles. Elaborating on this topic are Ravi Kumar, the Assistant Vice President of IT at CDSL, and Rohan Vaidya, the Area Vice President for SAARC and India at CyberArk. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Sanjana. Glad to be here.
So perhaps you can start with, what are the cybersecurity threats the BFSI industry is facing, because there's a lot of sensitive data that the industry deals with every day, and how it affects or has affected the industry.
So, there are multiple challenges when it comes to cybersecurity threats in BFSI, and there is, if I have to point out the number one threat that exists, it is of course the data breach. But apart from this data breach, if I have to list down, let's say, top 5 cybersecurity threat, it would be in the order of preference. I would say that the phishing attack is the number one cyber threat that exists today. So cyber criminals impersonate legitimate institutions or individuals, right, to deceive the customer and employees. So we have been seeing this over and over again. And I was going through a report which suggested like 33% of all the attacks that happen is basically originate from the phishing attacks, right? And the phishing remains therefore one of the most common and effective tactics by the cyber criminals, especially in the industry like us, BFSI, where the financial data is highly targeted. So this year, many Indian banks, so including one of the biggest bank in India, they were targeting by the phishing attacks where the cyber criminals impersonated the to be a bank representative, and they sent some fraudulent SMS and an email to customers requesting the sensitive banking information, and the customers unknowingly shared their login credentials and OTP, resulting in unauthorized transaction. The other challenge which I see, of course, is ransomware. So cyber criminals deploy ransomware to encrypt the data or lock the systems, demanding a ransom in return for access. So this is, since the BFSI, as I was suggesting previously, it is a high value target. So now there is a new concept of called double extortion. So attacker not only encrypt victim's data and demand a ransom for decryption, but they are now also threatening to release or sell the sensitive data if the ransom is not paid. So this adds kind of additional pressure on the victim by holding both their data and privacy at risk. So again, this impact of the ransomware is, it can range from your payment to your operational downtime, legal and regulatory penalties. I would say the third most critical threat that exists today is advanced persistent threats, also known as the APTs. So APTs are generally prolonged targeted cyber attacks where attackers infiltrate an organization's network, okay, and they maintain access for a long period of time to steal data. So this is mostly state sponsored, and this is used for spying or espionage activities. So we have seen an example this year where Indian financial institutions were reportedly targeted by an APT group, which was believed to be backed by a state actor. And this group used sophisticated techniques such as social engineering, spear phishing, and zero-day vulnerabilities to infiltrate several Indian banks. And the impact it had, the group remained persistent over months, including conducting various espionage activities, and they attempted to steal sensitive financial data, okay, and transactions. So the breach largely remained undetected for an extended period of time, okay, putting the institution at high risk. And the most, I think, sought out topic is the attack on the supply chain. So this is the fourth one in my list, where these attackers target the third-party vendors or partners that have access to organization's system or data, right? And an example, again, we have seen this year in one of the payment gateway company, which catered to several banks and financial institutions. They fell victim to this attack. So cyber criminals compromised one of the third-party vendors, which was responsible for the software update, and inserted the malicious code into this legitimate software, which was then distributed to multiple financial institutions across India. And lastly, I would say the fifth on my list is insider threats by either employees or third-party vendors. Okay, so insider threats, whether from employees, contractors, or third-party vendors, they pose a significant risk to financial institutions. So employees or vendors with unauthorized access to sensitive systems and data may intentionally or unintentionally misuse that access. So we have again seen one of the leading bank, right, where this year where a disgruntled employee with access to sensitive financial system, they misused their privilege to siphon funds from the customer account, and that employee, in collaboration with an external third-party vendor, altered the transaction records to cover up the fraudulent activities. So this breach basically resulted in significant financial loss for both the bank and its customers. And even the compromised data was used for fraudulent transaction, leading to the reputational damage, right? So I believe these are the five critical risk or the cybersecurity threat that that prevails today for BFSI sector.
Thank you, Ravi. Rohan, would you like to add something?
Sure. So I think, especially the post-COVID, India went through a very large digital transformation, and I think uh, we were forced to use digital payments and digital banking, everything during the COVID time, which kind of, to a certain extent, made us more confident in terms of what we could do digitally. And it also kind of put a kind of a mindset in terms of the concept of what you would always say is cash rich, time poor, which means that if I can do things quickly, I would want to really do things quickly, and digital did allow you to do that. So the moment we move to digital, I think one of the primary part of identification has become a digital identity. So for every single access which you would use either for a bank or a telecom company or even for any access which you use, now you have a digital identity. And the digital identity now allows you to go in and out, and the service company, which could be a bank, it could be a telecom operator, it could be even could be something like a media company, which allows you to come in and go out, basically is looking at your digital identity. Now, if I'm able to steal your digital identity, then I will be able to go in and out of any institution, do whatever I need to do, and still not be really caught, because from the system perspective, it is a legitimate transaction which is happening. So I think the primary transformation in terms of the cyber security threats, I would say, has been the uh, identity security has become a large part of the problem. And then when I talk about identity security part of it, there could be different ways and means of how people access their devices or access the systems. It could be through a username password, it could be through a biometric access, it could be through using certain API keys and things based on the personas that people are in. They would use those credentials in different forms which are there. So most of, I would say the breaches that Ravi also talked about, if you go kind of drill down to the forensics, you would always come to a final conclusion saying that their privileged credentials were compromised. And when the privileged credentials are compromised, it could be an insider threat, which was basically a privileged access, which was compromised, or even in a phishing attack, though the credentials were not compromised, but it was willingly given by the customer to the bad actor. So basically, it is your digital credentials which either have been stolen or taken fraudulently and being used to do transactions or do things which should have not been done is the primary area that we see post-COVID, which has really, really gone up there.
Thank you for that, Rohan. So, how does one stay ahead of all these emerging threats and vulnerabilities in the BFSI sector? Rohan, would you like to take the lead?
Right. So I think what really happens is that if we have to look at the threats, it is a cat and a mouse game. So I would say that we start very basics. So one is that what we have always been advocating is least privilege, which means that if I need certain privileges to do my job, it's only those privileges should be given for me. And when that particular job is done, or if my role is changed, or there is something, my privileges should be taken away. So if I am a and again, each of these privileges will change based on my profile and the job responsibilities which I have. And I'll explain this a little bit in detail. So for example, if I am a system administrator, my job is to back up Windows servers, and I am being allotted about 30 odd servers, which is my day-to-day job, which I'm supposed to do. Now, ideally, I should be only given privileges to access those 30 servers and nothing else, because that's the only job that I have. And maybe if I am going to be promoted or if I'm going to change my role and I become a Linux administrator and no longer this is my job, those privileges should be taken away from me, which means I only have at any given point of time the access to the servers which I'm supposed to work on. Now, the other step forward also is to make sure that I just get just in time access, which means if my job is to start at 9 a.m. in the morning and there's a ticket raised where I'm supposed to work on these servers from 11 to 1, then that access should be granted just to me a few minutes before. I would log in, I get the access, I work on it, and my access should be taken off. So just-in-time access is another part which is an important part of, I would say, managing these threats which are there. Now this is something which I would say is an important part in terms of identifying different personas. So an IT administrator may have a different set of work. A marketing manager would still have access to a lot of data because there could be a CRM data of the company, which may not look to be very threatful, because people would argue that there is no challenge if a marketing manager wouldn't be able to do much. But if he is using any of the CRMs where he has an administrative rights, or he's a super user, and most of the marketing people would have that because they would have to download certain things and do certain things, then that could become a kind of an insider threat, which means that these people should also have certain way of managing those privileges. It could be using any of the tools, or they should be monitored in a way where they would not be able to do certain risky commands, or they should not be able to take away certain data and things like those. Then the other part which we have also seen is a bigger challenge which now starts because everybody wants to cut down the time to market. And to cut down to time to market, people have started moving into DevOps. They have started doing a lot of work with developers, and the developers would directly work on the production systems and do certain things. And now the developers have access to a lot of servers, a lot of softwares, a lot of data because they are actually running production. And these access should be protected what the developers have. So that's a very important part. And there have been a lot of breaches around it because the developers do not come from a security mindset. They're more from the creative side of it and the business side of it, where they want to make sure that the business works faster and is able to compete in the market against their either their industries players, or they would do certain things from a customer satisfaction perspective. They would want to do it, but it should not be at the cost of security. And the fourth part, which we've seen very strongly, which now is coming in, is the machine identities. So to make it faster, you have a lot of machine learning tools which are used. There are AI bots which are being used, and they host a lot of identities. And this could be a very, very large challenge, because if I'm able to kind of compromise a single bot, I may get multiples of identities available and credentials available, which I could very easily take and compromised. That would have a very, very large effect on any organization.
Ravi, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so I think Rohan has covered, I think comprehensively. The identity security is a paramount because he talked about the ways of working, have changed, especially after the pandemic. We have seen the rapid adoption of digitization, and what used to be a fairly secure environment and the assumption that the data exists behind the firewall in data center. No, it's no longer true, and we are kind of living in a borderless era where the data can also reside in an employee who is sitting in probably in his drawing room. So it's very important to secure the identity. So I Rohan has already covered many things related to identity. So I'll touch based on some other parts. Uh, I feel we need to adopt a risk-based approach, and we have to think of implementing framework like NIST or ISO 27001, or for that matter, CIS benchmark, to assess and prioritize risk based on their potential impact. Okay. So this will help the organizations to allocate the resource effectively to mitigate the most critical threats first. And the other approach, which is the buzzword, is zero trust security, which essentially means, right, never trust, always verify. So zero trust, assumes that all the network traffic, inside or outside the organization, is untrusted. So it enforces strong authentication, microsegmentation, and least privilege access to ensure that no unauthorized user can access the sensitive data or the systems. Okay. I would say regular, performing the red teaming and breach attack simulation, right, is also something which is very essential to identify the weakness in the cybersecurity postures. And these exercises now help organization test and refine the incident response capabilities, okay, and also ensure that they can be effectively, mitigated, effectively, in fact, mitigate the real attacks, whenever they occur. One area where I feel we can focus is on the threat intelligence piece. So we have to subscribe to security threat intelligence services and collaborate with industry peers and leverage the government resources. For example, we have been since CDSL is part of national critical infrastructure, so we get feeds from NCIPC and CERTIN. Okay, so we stay informed about the latest threats and vulnerabilities. And of course, the traditional method of having a continuous monitoring by use of advanced threat detection tools like EDR and SIEM, it's very important, and because they help to monitor the behavior, they perform a behavior analysis to detect any deviation or identify any pattern which is not normal, right? And having a strong identity and access management, which Rohan already spoke about, is need of our, because we don't have a boundary as such. So we need to have a very strong authentication, mechanism. And of course, the continuous we need to have a continuous patch management process. Okay, so we have to ensure that there is a process in place for timely patching of any vulnerabilities. So, cyber criminals often exploit the unpatched system to gain access to the network. There should be also an automated vulnerability scanning. Okay, so we have to think of implementing tools to continuously scan for vulnerabilities, right? So, in fact, this year, SEBI has come up with BAS and CART, which is breach attack simulation and continuous automated scanning. So have to just don't rely on the one-time red teaming exercises that are done, but we have to continuously look for vulnerabilities which is inside our network. And of course, the human element plays a very big role. So we have to think of regularly conducting the security training and awareness program, which are specially focused on phishing and social engineering threat, to ensure that all employees are well prepared to identify and report suspicious activities. And we have to basically do the phishing simulation exercises so that these campaigns, continuously test the employees' readiness and reinforce the security best practices. So these are this some of the measures I believe we can take to stay ahead of emerging threat and vulnerabilities, apart from what Rohan already spoke about.
Okay, thank you, Ravi. So, what is the identity security platform, and what's the benefit of BFSI companies adopting this technology? Rohan, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I think one of the things which, if you look at cybersecurity, there are so many solutions, so many software, so many tools, and there could be certain tools which overlap, and there could be certain functionalities which could overlap. And there's a lot of investment which goes when you have multiple tools and multiple different OEMs who work. And at the end of the day, security or cybersecurity is a team sport, which means that if you have not really, if you will maybe using multiple tools and if they're not really fortified, then there would be cracks between these tools, and the bad actors would be able to really get through their way. So that is an area which is of a real concern in terms of working in silos when it comes to cybersecurity. So one of the things which we've seen in happening in the marketplace is there is a lot of consolidation of tools which is happening, and the in the identity security space, there are typically two or three types of identity security parts which are there. One is the identity and access management, and there is privilege access management. Then there is governance, identity and governance, which is there. Now, all these three things, if they are being looked at as a single platform, then it gives a lot of credibility to the solution which is being provided, because there are no gaps. There are no gaps, and then there are not many challenges to manage this platform as per the requirement of the customer. So it just becomes more customer centric, it becomes more industry centric, and there could be different use cases which would also make sure that you have an overlap so that you are fortified very well. So the identity security platform is a kind of a journey in terms of uniting these silo products within the identity security space to make it to a one platform. And CyberArk has been one of the leading uh, technology companies in the identity security space, where we've been able to be far ahead of the curve in the identity security platform space. And we've been rolling this out to our customers, and we do see that they have been benefiting from this particular things, because you are basically able to tie all the loose ends within the customer environment, allowing the customer to get a better control when it comes to identity security.
Yeah, so I think Rohan is the best person to answer it. But basically, the identity security platform is a comprehensive set of technologies, I would say policies, and in fact tools which is designed to manage and secure the digital identity of users. It can be your employees, it can be your customer, it can be your contractors, right? So these platforms ensure that only authorized individual can access the specific resources, systems, and safeguards the sensitive data and application across the organization network. So if I have to list down some key component which should be there in this platform. So as Rohan talked about, this identity governance and administration IGA, so which involves the creation, management, and monitoring of the user identities, as well as I would say access rights across the application and systems. Then a very important component is a single sign-on. Okay, so single sign-on basically enables the user to access multiple application with single set of credentials. So it reduces basically the password fatigue and improves the overall security. And multi-factor authentication is another important part which necessitates multiple verification methods, not just the username and password. So there is also a third element. It can be your token, or it can be your biometric scan, right? Then PAM is the, I would say, this heart of the identity security, which basically controls and monitors the access of high privilege users. It can be your admins, it can be your IT staff to critical systems. And there is a engine or a tool for analytics and intelligence. So which involves basically analyzing the user behavior and activity. Kind of, you can say the AI ML engine, SIM, which detects the unusual or risky behavior. And of course, the access management is one part, which includes the provisioning and deprovisioning of the access and resources. So these are the major component of the identity security platform. And if I have to tell you about some of the benefits which it provides, so it basically enhances the compliance and regulatory requirements. So organizations in sectors like BFSI, they must adhere to regulation. So an identity security platform basically, helps organization like us to manage these access control, be it an audit trail or a rollback based access, ensuring the compliance with these regulations. So it also helps to build a real-time monitoring and detailed reports, which can be generated, okay, through this platform. So yeah, so that's about the identity security platform, right?
Okay, got it. And are there any other emerging trends or technologies in cybersecurity that will play a critical role, in securing the data for the BFSI industry?
Sure. So I think one of the things which we see could be an emerging trend, and I would do it more from the bad actor perspective, is the use of AI. And the use of AI kind of increases the potential and the ability of the bad actors to really experiment a lot in terms of different areas. It could be creating very, very specific phishing attacks. It could be creating deep fake things to really be able to entice the users to be able to fall in trap. Also, a lot of the organizations have started experimenting on AI labs. Basically, the intent of using the AI labs internally is to make sure that they are able to do certain things much more faster or much more intelligently. And the LLMs poisoning is an area of real concern, because if I'm able to poison the LLMs, all the decision making which has been created through the AI agents would be very, very biased, and the decision making would be done in such a way that the senior management would only see the effects of those decisions much later, because a lot of the data could be manipulated or could be poisoned in terms of doing that. So I think this is one of the critical areas to look at. Also, the machine identities are an area which are coming up as an emerging trend, because that's an easy to go after. The focus even today with most of the organizations when it comes to cybersecurity is to protect the human identities. And compared to number of human identities available in an organization, I think machine identities are in the multiples of 10 or 15 times more than which are in the human things. So the vulnerabilities of these uh, machine identities is an easy path for the bad actors to really go after. So I think these are two trends which we will see more in the coming 2025 and 26, where the investment from the bad actors would go to exploit these areas.
Yeah, I would say yes, there are several emerging trends and technology in cybersecurity which are poised to play a critical role in securing the BFSI. And these innovations, I would say, not only address the current cybersecurity challenges, but also will help to anticipate and mitigate future risk, as the sectors become more digitized and integrated. So as Rohan spoke about the AI ML, so in fact, last couple of years, the generative AI, we have seen no, the deepfakes, that were used in general elections, in various countries, and basically, these generative AIs, the LLM, one example, which normally these AIs have a guardrails where you cannot get certain responses, but in fact, it is not difficult to manipulate, the AI. So that remains to be, key challenges to how to secure the data, which is used to train these LLMs. Okay, and I would say the industry has already moved to zero trust architecture that continues to remain a trend, and the current trend, I would say, in cybersecurity. I would say the quantum computing, right? So as quantum computing, advances, it poses like I would say serious threat to existing cryptographic algorithm and quantum resistant cryptography, which includes a new encryption method. Okay, so basically it ensures that sensitive financial data, it remains secure even in the face of quantum computing challenges. So theoretically, we have seen that these quantum computing, remains a challenge because theoretically there are chances that it can break any algorithm within minutes. So we have to basically prepare for a quantum resistance cryptography. Okay, and BFSI organizations are beginning to prepare for that transition to quantum resistant cryptography protocols, that will protect data from the capability of future, I would say, quantum computers. And the other area I would say is on the blockchain. So basically, blockchain provides a decentralized, immutable ledger that can verify the financial transactions, and it reduces the risk of fraud, right? And so in BFSI sector, I would say the smart contracts, self-executing contracts with terms of agreement, directly written into code can automate the financial transactions in a secure, transparent manner without any intermediaries. That is one of the trend. And I would like to talk about something which we have already implemented in our organization is API security. So now with the rise of now API-driven financial services, so securing API is a top priority, and API security gateways are increasingly used to protect the API from vulnerabilities, right, such as your data breaches or unauthorized access. So you can provide the security in terms of authentication or rate limiting. So API security is also one of the key trend. And then, of course, something which we have already implemented in our organization also, it's an automated incident response. So security orchestration, automation, and response, SOAR platform, right? So basically, it combines your threat detection, response, and remediation into, I would say, one platform, which allows the organization to automate the incident response and reduce the, I would say, reaction or turnaround time, because normally a SOC engineer is thrown with 1,000 of these alerts, and most of the alerts may not be a priority. So we need to have an automated incident response plan so that it will basically reduce the alert fatigue and reduce the turnaround time. And I would say another trend is there is a lot of talk about this IoT security. So with the growing adoption of IoT devices in BFSI, if I have to give an example, we have smart ATMs or some automated systems or mobile banking applications, so which opens up a new attack vector. So securing these devices is vital to prevent the vulnerabilities from being, exploited. So these are some of the trend I believe we need to closely watch. Some of these are relevant today. Some of these will catch up in next few months or few years.
Thank you, gentlemen, for a very interesting conversation about the state of cybersecurity industry in the country and how it's helping with, securing data, very sensitive information for the BFSI industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjana.